go down the mushroom path a little bit.
Yeah.
So mushrooms freak me out. I absolutely hate them, but they come up so much that even I'm like, should I be finding a way to get these into my diet?
Why do mushrooms freak you out?
They feel weird in my mouth. They taste like dirt, and they live off of other things. I don't know. They freak me out.
Okay, so like the idea of the nature of a mushroom freaks you out. So
I'd be okay with that if they felt good in my mouth and didn't taste like dirt.
All right. Well, so I always tell people, like, if you don't like a particular food, you probably haven't yet had the opportunity to have it prepared for you in a super delicious way.
I'll buy that 100%.
Okay.
I used to fear sushi in ways you can't imagine. Until I found the one that I like, and then that's the gateway, and then it opens up the whole culinary experience, and now I love sushi.
Gateway foods. I like that idea. All right. So first, let's talk about what's good in a mushroom. Mushrooms contain a fiber. It's kind of funny to think that mushrooms are packed with fiber because they're soft and squishy for the reasons that you described. But they contain a soluble fiber called beta-D-glucan. We know what it is. It's found in the cap of the mushroom. So if you buy mushrooms, you bring them home, you put them on the cutting board, you cut off the cap, usually throw away the stems. Don't do it. The cap has beta-glucan. The stems have twice as much. And beta-glucan, when we eat them, whether you saute them, you bake them, you fry them, I don't recommend frying, but you can also puree them. If you pureed mushroom parts into a soup, you might not think that it would have a completely different mouthfeel for you. And then you added seasonings or herbs to give it a different flavor, and maybe combine it with something else. I might be able to convert you into a mushroom lover.
Right? I'm super open to that. Trust me.
The gateway dish. So you'll have to, have me over in your kitchen sometime. I'll cook you dinner. Because I actually by the way, the reason I talk about food this way is I like to cook.
Dude, you lit up as soon as we started talking about like the specifics of the food.
I'm telling you, I love food and food culture. I don't like to eat, like I don't gorge, but I live for tasting things. I love to explore all the.
But you actually like to cook, right?
I like to cook.
Yeah. So I love food. I love like going to a restaurant and having it made and trying new things. And I learned, because I used to have food trauma as a kid, but I've really learned to be experimental and try things. And it's opened a lot of cool like culinary doors for me. But I hate cooking.
Okay. But that's okay. You'll find another way to try things. By the way, the other day, I just want to say this is not off topic, but talking about trying. I saw at a restaurant that there was a dish, it was a Spanish restaurant, that had arroz negra. It's black rice, a black paella negra. Okay. And the blackness comes from squid ink.
Whoa.
Squid ink is pretty intense. It's jet black. It tastes of the sea. It's actually really delicious. But I had just been reading about the fact that squid ink has been studied in the lab, and when fed to animals that have gotten chemotherapy, it protects the health of the gut. So you know how people get chemo, they have diarrhea because the chemo like totally scorches their gut. Squid ink protects it. It's pretty interesting.
Do they know how or why?
The superficial answers, it must be an antioxidant. But actually it turns out squid ink can actually stimulate healthy blood vessel growth, angiogenesis. It can help to protect stem cells.
That's so random. Do you know the story of rapamycin and how they found it?
It was in Easter Island.
Yeah.
In Rapa Nui.
Yeah, like in the swamp. And the people for however long would go there when they weren't feeling well, and supposedly it made you feel better.
Right.
So this guy ends up taking some of the dirt back, looking at it.
And they found the fungus.
Yeah.
And
was like, oh, maybe this is something. And it ends up being this huge something. And I'm just like, so weird, these compounds.
Let's talk about it. Rapamycin inhibits a pathway called mTOR. Okay. mTOR is critical for fast aging. So rapamycin and its derivatives slow down aging. And one of the diabetic drugs called metformin actually is slowing down aging as well. It hits that same target. So again, if you follow the trail of science, you kind of find all kinds of interesting things. But now where were we? Where were we talking about? We're talking about cooking.
Yes.
We were talking about bioactives. and you were asking about combinations and diversity. So our gut microbiome, the more diverse food that we eat, and this has been studied, the more diverse, especially healthy foods. It doesn't have to be plants, but mostly plants and seafood, things like that. The greater the diversity of the food that you eat, the happier the gut microbiome. The more diverse, the more different organisms you can grow, the more diversity of the population, of the ecosystem, the healthier your gut microbiome is. Healthier gut microbiome lowers inflammation, helps your metabolism, helps you heal faster. So again, don't be afraid of saying, well, I don't really like this, so I'm not going to be able to eat this obsessively and exclusively, for a whole week, so therefore I can't be healthy. No, there are I read about more than 200 foods that can light up your brown fat and help you reduce and burn down your white fat. So the whole idea of eating to beat your diet is connected to being able to rediscover the joy of eating the traditional foods that have recipes that include all these ingredients. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, don't eat too much. We started talking about don't overload your fuel tank. All right. So you don't want to gorge. Eat diversely, mostly plant-based stuff because, it's got it's got meaningful calories. It's not the soda. It's high quality fuel, high quality calories. It's got the bioactives. What do those bioactives do? They do a lot of things. They light up all kinds of systems in your body for health. But one of the cool things, and the foods I read about Eat to Beat Your Diet, it lights up brown fat. What does brown fat do? Well, it's that hibernating fat that goes whoosh and it actually fires up and it burns extra fuel and it steals that fuel from your harmful white fat, especially the visceral fat. How do you know? Because human studies have been done to show eating these foods, not very much, watch you shrink your waistline because your waist isn't being pooched out by the visceral fat. Your belt size, you tighten your belt a little bit further, slip into those jeans. Wait a minute, aren't we back to a diet? Nope, because you're eating foods to be able to shrink down your excess fat. So is fat protective? Well, yeah, some fat is protective. I'm trying to hit all the themes we started with. Yeah, you need fat because it's part of your metabolism. But should we be eating too much food, have too much fat? Nope. That'll actually outstrip the blood supply, cause inflammation, and cause that domino effect that wrecks your metabolism. So don't overeat. Eat high quality fuel. Eat diversely, and refer back to the foods that come from the Mediterranean and come from Asia. Those are two. I sort of try to simplify for people. People always ask me, Dr. Lee, how do you eat? What kind of diet are you on? And I'm like, I'm not on a diet. I don't go for diets for myself. I respect other people who try them, but I don't. But I do have a way of eating, and my way of eating, I call it Mediterranean. I'm Asian. I've lived in Asia before. I've lived in the Mediterranean, and naturally I gravitate towards dishes and ingredients and recipes in one of those two genres. If I'm at a restaurant, I'm looking at a whole bunch of offerings, I'll kind of say, well, what's kind of Asian-ish and what's kind of what are the Mediterranean offerings? And I'll try to go for those automatically. All right. It's easy to do, not expensive. The stuff that I talk about, the beans, dirt cheap. So this is not a rich man's folly to pursue that you can't sustain. This is actually tapping back into our humanity to be able to eat foods that we enjoy. And if you don't like mushrooms, which are one of those healthy foods, I would love to cook a dish for you, a mushroom dish that doesn't give you that weird texture to see if you like it. And that's part of the fun of sharing enthusiasm for food as well. In America, one of the things that I did a gap year before I went to medical school, and I lived in Italy and I lived in Greece. The first thing I noticed is that when you're in when you're in America, you're eating by yourself, you're wolfing down your food, and when you're sitting with people, what are you talking about? You're talking about your problems. You're talking about the things that you need to do. The first thing I noticed when I was in Italy, when you sit down, first of all, you never eat by yourself. You're always eating with somebody else. And when they serve that delicious Mediterranean food, all right, you don't talk about your problems. What do you talk about? They talk about the food. They talk about, this is how my mom prepared it. This is what I love about this food. This is the season for this food. You savor the experience of the food. And so that's why I think, even though we were kind of like biohacking into the kind of the mechanisms, I want to kind of bring this conversation into the point that you want to eat to beat your diet. It's not about going into a diet. It's tapping back into our humanity to go back into those foods that come from the Mediterranean, come from Asia. They come from other places as well, but they've been codified in recipes and in traditions that we can get behind. This is not hard to do. If you don't want to go into the science, if you want to geek out into the science, it's all there. You want to talk to me about it? I'm happy to take it, as far, I can go a mile deep with this conversation. But honestly, at the end of the day, it's like you and me sitting across a table, ordering some food and just really enjoying what's in there and talking about the food. That's actually how to eat to beat your diet. And I think that this actually overcomes the stigma about food and health, that you have to stay away from it, that, and don't demonize your food. Look, there are demons out there for sure, but look for the angels. Like, wouldn't you rather actually surround yourself on a daily basis, 3 times a day, with something that gives you peace and gives you pleasure? That's the joy of health. That's the joy of eating. And I think that's really how we can actually best protect our metabolism. And by the way, one last thing about those prescription weight loss drugs, man, what a bummer it is to actually take a medicine that blocks your appetite so you don't want to eat that delicious food. That's my kind of pet peeve about this trend, in addition to all those other caveats that I actually gave, is like, who would want to actually block their humanity of enjoying food? You like food? How would you like to not care about your food anymore? That's a bummer. So to me, it's really reigniting this joy of eating.
If you like that clip, check out another powerful clip right here, and I'll see you there.